Welcome to the Queen's Corner, where we celebrate everything about the woman. We keep it real, we laugh, we cry, we share our experiences, we motivate and we inspire, and most of all, we have fun. Hey, my beautiful queens. I hope you all are doing amazing today. This is your good girlfriend, Chanel Sara'Nita. Today, the topic is align, abide, and become. So I'm going to start off with letting you guys know that I have definitely been going through this warfare phase with my life and with myself as well. Having an understanding of why I am here and more so sticking to why I am here. And not just why I am in LA, but just here on this planet. Am I walking in, my purpose? I'm consistently indecisive about things and trying to come back around and make sure that I am doing what I'm supposed to do. And sometimes it feels like I'm not. There are days when I'm just home and I'm just like, God, what is this? What am I doing? Everything that I had planned or that I thought, it's like I was living this delusional thought that, oh, everything is going to just fall in place. I knew that I had to do the work, but sometimes you think that the work is going to just be there for you to do. And sometimes it's not. You have to figure even out how to create it or how to get to it. And that is where the struggle can become a little scary. So God has been releasing some things into me, and I am, praying constantly, always trying to work on something, probably jumping from one thing to another because of fear or not knowing what to do, just kind of sporadic, you know? And I prayed one day, like, Holy Spirit, like, what is this? And I told y'all before, I don't consider myself religious. I consider myself spiritual. Being a spiritual person does not mean that you do not have a connection with God. That's absolutely what it means. I have a close relationship with my Father. I have a close relationship with Holy Spirit. Yes, I carry crystals in my house. Sometimes I might, what is it? Read my horoscopes, whatever. All of that for me is still me connecting with God. Whether that's not but I'm going sideways. But anyways, so I'm talking to God and I'm cleaning the house. And I remember that day I was just like, man, what what are you doing? What are you doing, Chanel? Because I've come to a place where I have realized that everything I have been asking for, even if it took some time, and no, I have not been or gotten to where I want to be, but God has aligned me and gave me the things and the talents and the words and the things that I've needed. He has placed them on me, inside of me. He has led me, and I'm still asking God, what do I do? What do I do? And man, like realizing that it's not him, it's me. It's not the world, it's not the universe, it's not God, it's not even my inner goddess. It's not. It's me. It's my flesh for sure. It's not even my spirit. It's my flesh for sure that is consistently questioning, what do I do next? Consistently questioning where God has me. Consistently questioning who I am and what I need to do. It's not God. It's not. It's not. The universe is giving me everything. God, he's giving me everything. My inner spirit speaks to me. That's all God speaks to me, right? But I'm still trying to pull something else out of it. What is it? What is it? What is it? God said to me, I know he's tired of me. He said, I have given you everything you need. I've given you everything you need. Everything that you need is inside of you. When Moses was leading his people, Moses said, God, what am I supposed to do? I can't, I can't do this. Who am I to lead these people? He said, look what's in your hand. Oh my God. It's like God literally led me and was just like, look what's in your hand, Chanel. Look what you have books. You have a pen that you write and you pour your heart and soul and spirit into. You have the acting abilities. You have everything you need. Why are you not using them? What are you afraid of? God, and even speaking to my therapist, it's all coming together for me of what I've been afraid of. And not only did I realize, like, Chanel, you need your own word, but somebody else needs that word too. It's like, what are you afraid of? What am I trying to, what is it? Are you trying to validate something or somebody, or are you out here doing it for show? Or is this really, are you really going to walk the walk and talk the talk? Excuse me. So I was reading through, I just left the gym and I knew that I wanted to speak over into the podcast. And I have been, doing a lot of preparing. By the time when this comes out, I know that I've had a few that I've recorded, but, you'll probably hear it on some others that I had taken a break from the podcast just because I wanted to make sure that it was authentic. And a lot of you want to see my face and things like that. And so I have a few that I'll have with my face and some that I won't, but I wanted to stay true and not just feed off of what the people want, but what God needs me to say and what I need to speak, what spirit is leading me to speak, because I'm not on here just to validate my own insecurities or to validate my own what is it image and who I am and what I know. That's not why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because God put it on me some time ago, years ago actually, but I wasn't prepared to speak. I was so fixated with making everything perfect that I forgot who and what I was doing it for. And this is for you. This is for me. This is for, there's been men that have called me and told me that they listen to my podcast and really it's for everybody. And I've thought so much into that, and I am just being a vessel because I ask God, please just make me a vessel. Please. Whatever is in me that you need me to use to get out and to help somebody else to speak into other people, whatever that is. No, I'm not going to always show my face, and because I feel like I'm getting caught up in my image when I do that. I'm going to be honest with you. And sometimes God just gives me a word and I just want to talk. I just want to pour out. I don't need you to see me made up all the time, or I don't need you to, always see that I'm dressed and at my best. I'm going to do that for when I get online. I'm going to make sure that everything around me look good. But when when I'm being poured into speaking a word or speaking and saying what I feel and what I gotta let that happen. I gotta let that happen. I got to be able to lead with my tongue because that's what he's giving me. He's pouring so much into me, and I'm just so grateful for just that right there. That I'm being that he's pouring into me and I'm able to pour it out. So back to the topic, align, abide, and become. Align, abide, and become. I don't know about y'all, but this has been a struggle for me. And I'm always praying for alignment. The first time I heard alignment, I was listening to Sarah Jakes, and I had just gotten to Atlanta. And most of you probably don't know, but none of you probably know. But when I was in Atlanta years ago, I was trying to like get out of the hair industry as I always have been doing. And around this time, I was like, you know what? I need just a job right now where I could just sit and create and think or whatever. So I went and became a security guard, right? And I was working in this building where I never really had to see people. I was writing my books. I was literally like sitting at my desk writing my books, just writing down everything that God was pouring into me, like how can I use it, whatever, whatever. And on those days when I was feeling like down or when I just needed to have something extra poured into me, I listened to Sarah Jakes Roberts. And Sarah Jakes, that's my girl. Like, that's my little sister that knows more than me in my head. Like, that's what I call her. Like, she's my little big sister. Like, she knows more than me. Like, I call my brother, my little brother, not my youngest brother, but my little brother, my little big brother, because he's bigger than me, but he's my little brother. So I call her that, my little big sister in my head. And she was speaking about alignment. And this was years ago. This was probably like 7 years ago. And she was talking about how you need to align. It's time for alignment. God is aligning you with your purpose and your gifts, and all of that is aligning. And I heard her say that. And then I heard Torrey Roberts say the same thing. You know, that's her husband. He was talking about alignment. And then my Uncle Steve. I name all of these people. It's funny, but I do. Uncle Steve Harvey. I call him Uncle Steve because he is my uncle in my head. Like, he's one of those people that I go to, and when I need some advice, and even though I can't talk to him face to face yet, because I will, he gives me the advice that I need. And he spoke on aligning your purpose, that God will align your purpose, your gift, and your talents. He will align all of that. You know, like, even though he does a lot of inspirational speaking now and things like that, and he's working on game shows and things like that, God aligned his gift as a comedian to be able to pour into people, but also let them know who his God is. Also be able to inspire them to go get to the next level in their lives and how they could do it. Maybe turn $100 into $1,000 into $1,000,000, whatever. But I was listening to these three people on a consistent basis. There were others, but those three people on a consistent basis: Sarah Jakes, Torrey Roberts, and Uncle Steve. And they helped me so much. Just to, you know, when they talked about alignment and walking in who I am, and um, learning how to walk in it, and aligning my purpose with the talents and gifts that God has given me, and learning how to flip them to make to become the person that I'm supposed to be, right? So the definitions, I wrote down the definitions, right? So I'll start with the definitions of alignment. Aligned means place or arrange in a straight line. So if you didn't know, that's what alignment means: to place or arrange in a straight line. God gives everybody, and I know it might sound like I'm preaching today. I don't really care. I don't really care because, again, I'm pouring what I had, what's been given to me. God will align you with what He's giving you. So, you know, as a child, I've always known that I was not going to carry on a career in a uniform. I don't know where it came from. It wasn't a bad thing. I just knew that wasn't my walk. I had my cousin Van, who is a nurse, and I watched her all the time, like go to work. I would, watch her kids and things like that. But even when I was younger, I would see her, my Aunt Chastity, a few other people. They wore uniforms, and I knew that they were doing something to help other people. But I knew that that part that wasn't for me. Um, and I would see like God would give me visions as a little girl, and I mean I was young, like 6, 7, 8 years old, and I never spoke about it, but He would give me visions and would show me and would say like that's not who you will be. That's not who you're gonna be. I've always been a creative. Since I was a little girl, I've always been a creative and an entrepreneur. I was a writer. I used to write all the time. I wrote poetry all the time. My Aunt Hattie, she told me that I would be a writer. She would like read all of my stuff all the time. And she would sing to me and tell me, like, you're going to be a writer and your work is amazing and things like that. And I was probably like 9 or 10. And I would do my girlfriend's nails for like 25 cents. I would go buy candy from the penny candy store and I would resell it for like a nickel more to the people in my neighborhood. Or I would sell like bags of candy. Me and a girlfriend, we would sell like bags of candy, and we could never figure out why we wasn't making the money back. It was so funny, but it was because we was selling the candy for the same price that we bought it for. So we just didn't know, right? But I remember like with one of my younger cousins, I was putting together a business plan to start a summer camp. And I was like in second grade. I was so young. Um, when I was in fifth grade, I started babysitting. I think it was like fifth or sixth grade. I started babysitting. And I would babysit for my cousins, like my cousin Van. She would pay me like $100 to babysit for the weekend because she worked so much as a nurse. And then I remember at one point, I'm not getting off the topic, I promise. I remember at one point, I was babysitting like all of my cousins for Christmas while their parents, I was babysitting for like $25 while their parents went shopping for Christmas, right? Like I had dope ideas, and I was in marching bands, and my mom always kept me in stuff. She saw the vision. She saw things before I did. I didn't like, as far as like performance, I was a little bit shy, but it was things that I really wanted to do. Like I love modeling, and I was obsessed with like runway and fashion shows and things like that, but I was too shy to speak up about it. So my mom put me in a marching band, and even then I could march my tail off. Like I could march when I say a girl was marching, sis, like the dance moves had it down packed, okay? My mother put me in fashion shows. Like she knew that I would be able to model, but I was so afraid. Like I remember the first time I got on stage and I was just like walking like a robot because I was so scared to do it. And we went back next year, and I got in, and it's like she always saw it. Like God gave her that, you know. And I remember when I saw Raven Simone on television. I don't know if I talked about this before, but I saw Raven Simone on television, and I was like, I want to be just like her. But I never really spoke about it. So I didn't even give like anybody anything to work with. My mom knew, but I never really put it out there like I wanted to be on Disney Channel. I wanted to do this. I wanted to do that. I was afraid. I don't know why. And then I met Jada Pinkett. Until this day, I know what people say about her, whatever, my, personal opinions, whatever, but she inspired me. When I first met Jada Pinkett, I was at my cousin Kim's house, and I was probably, I don't know, I was so young. I was probably like 5 or 6 years old, and I will never forget, she had this big curly bush, and me and all of my girl cousins, like I would go over there, and my cousin Cherie and Naomi and Kimberly and Katie and Tiara, like we would all go over there and spend the weekends. And this one weekend, Jada Pinkett came over there, and she had just gotten or her role on A Different World. And I was in love with that show. Like it had been on for a minute, but she had just got her role. And we were like watching her because she was talking to my cousin and whoever she was seeing. She was talking to my cousin at the time, and we were like watching her, and she was just so poised and so beautiful. And we ran back and we wrote this letter to like Whitley and Dwayne. I will never forget that. And a few weeks later, I saw her on the show, and I was just in awe. I was just floored because this girl, and I didn't even see her on the show before that everybody else had. And I noticed, and I was just like, oh my gosh, she looks just like me. She looks like me, and she's from my city. Because I had like big hair or whatever. And I'm from Baltimore City, and like the inner city. I grew up in the inner city, Papa Grove, in like Riggs area, and Emerson Avenue area, whatever. And so I'm seeing this girl from Cherry Hill. If you know Cherry Hill, you know Cherry Hill, okay? And she's beautiful. And so I knew that's what I wanted to do. But I was still not really, didn't know how to go about it, right? I was just keeping a secret. It was to myself. And I didn't realize like all of this time, and I'm still working on my dreams, right? Still working towards my dreams. But all this time, God was aligning me. He was aligning me to fall in love with something. He was aligning me to show me where my world would be, what I will work towards, what I was working on. And a lot of times, y'all, I have to go back and I have to remind myself of why I am doing things that I'm doing. And I have to go back to those stories and remember like God put me in a space to align me with what he has for me in this in the future. And I'm still working towards it. You know, doors are being closed. Sometimes I get fearful of going through certain doors or not knowing if it's for me, get indecisive, not, but God has still, he's still leading me into what is supposed to be for me, right? And I don't know, I still don't know exactly where that's going to land me, but I know that he was planting these seeds in me a little bit at a time to align me on this narrow, straight line. Hey, you're walking into this. You are a creative. You love film. You love to write. You love to delegate. You love to build. You love to. And I'm still like, oh God, like, okay, how am I using this? Even right now, y'all, still is like, okay, God, you gave me this. How am I going to use it? What am I doing? And realizing like, okay, he's aligning me on that straight and narrow, so it's not him. So I'm gonna get into all of that, right? So, over the years, I got a little bit bolder and decided to walk into wanting to become an actress. And although I was like watching over the years of watching Raven Simone and how she was getting bigger and bigger and having her own show and like, oh, I want to be that. I want to go on that show. I was like falling in love with so much and I just didn't know how to get there because I didn't want to ask my mom, can we move to LA? Mom, how can I get? Because she was already being, you know, torn down with like going to these places and they're taking our money, and she wasn't really that educated and knowledgeable of the business, but she was trying like to figure it out. And during that time, like um my dad was in my life, but my dad was in prison sometimes. And so a lot of things like she was trying to, and I understand it so much now, like trying to take up trying to do so much for herself and for other people and working and things like that. So I was too afraid to say, Mom, this is really what I want to do. How can we do it this way? Because I knew how to do it, but I just didn't know how to ask her for that help because of the situation I saw that she was in, right? So when I got a little older, my ex-husband, his little sister, she was going to this Twigs program um, at the Baltimore School of the Arts, and she performed. And I was falling in love with watching her perform. And I wish till this day, although I don't talk to her as much, I still wish till this day that she kept going, because she doesn't even know that she inspired me, because I watched them perform and I fell in love with that. And I was just like, yo, you could still do this. Like, time hasn't passed that you can't do it. You just got to figure out how to get started, you know? And it was just God aligning me, still aligning me, and still putting the thoughts in my head, like reminding me, like, oh, hey, this is where you started. Like, I know right now you staying here, you staying there. Because at that time, I think I had kind of like, I had lost my home, my house or whatever, went through this depression and all this stuff. My dad passed away. And I think I was like staying with my boyfriend and his mom, or maybe I was staying with my cousin, because I know I had lost my place, whatever. But I was in this split place where I was just like, oh girl, you don't know who you are, what you doing. Um, I think I had stopped doing hair. I don't know. I was just ugly stuff. And that sparked my interest again. And I still didn't talk about it. I put it on my vision board, but I still didn't talk about it. I was just like feeling my way through some things. And again, it's just realizing like, oh, all right, okay, God, like he was aligning me, trying to get me on task, like get me, get my passion, get my dreams and my thoughts all aligned, right? And at this point, I didn't even realize that this was a gift. I didn't realize that I was being aligned with gifts or talents or purpose or any of that. That started to come over time. You know, like when he put a pen back in my hand, and I went from, oh, I don't know who to audition for. I don't know where to find good auditions. All of this sucks. I don't know what to do. So I'm going to write my own monologues. Then I started writing again. And then I was performing them, and people were telling me, like, I would go to auditions like, oh, that's great. That's good. And then I went from that to, well, somebody's saying to me, Chanel, you should write a script. So then I'm writing a script, and I'm putting on this, and I'm getting um, the school and people together to film this script, to film this film, right? And although it did not work out, y'all, it did not work out. I was falling in love with something. I was falling in love with something because I was finding my alignment. I was finding where I was supposed to be and what I was supposed to be doing. And it felt good. It felt so good. And as time went on, I'm still writing, and I'm waking up every day and I'm writing, and I'm falling in love with this process, and I'm writing, and I'm finding photographers and cinematographers and actors, and I'm like, oh my God, I love this. Like, I love that this is where I am and this is what I'm doing. You can't you can't top this. That's what I was thinking. I can't top this. This is dope. And then I get pregnant with my daughter. And then I hear God say, write a book. And I'm like, God, write a book. I don't even know how to write a book. So what did I do? I went and found a book that I could, Terry McMillan. I went and got a Terry McMillan book, and I read it, and then I read a few other books just to see, like, oh, how I can get started. How do you actually write a book? How do you lay the foundation? Things like that. I studied a little bit. Pregnant, knowing I can't audition, I can't do anything. Man, like I'm just getting in the space of doing this, and now I can't even do it. You feel me? And I was just like, all right, I'm gonna write a book. Started writing this book. Easily Enticed. How Easily Enticed got started. Well, got started with the script, but in a monologue. But just writing this book, writing this book. And if I could go backwards a little bit, before I actually wrote this book or wrote that, or and I had wrote that script, I had wrote this short little monologue some time before that, and I got to Atlanta. I came out to LA. I think I talked about that before. I came out to LA, and when I got here, I came out here to audition for David E. Talbert. And the monologue that I used, that monologue that I had written some time ago, I had perfected it, got to the audition, and murdered it. Got up there and murdered it. And he called me down off the stage like, Chanel, when you coming here? When you gonna be here? Whatever, whatever. So it was like, again, God was still aligning me and showing me like, yeah, this is where you need to be walking into, because you're getting closer and closer and closer. I mean, I was not meeting like little people, not even saying like people are little, but I was in a city. I was in a city where I was in Baltimore. I was in a city where you don't really meet, you know, famous people that are out here doing big things. Not back then. This was like 2009. Not back then. You weren't really meeting like famous people. I was falling all into the right hands. I mean, Tasha Smith was it was the first acting class I had ever went to. She and I, like, she saw something in me because we kept in touch for a little bit. And she didn't do that for a lot of other people. And so I knew even then, I knew that there was something there, that this was something for me. And even though it didn't hit immediately, it was like God was showing me something. David E. Talbert, met him, went to school in New York with Susan Batson. She teaches so many people, and Jamie Foxx and all of these other people, and met her and worked with her and was like in her class like all the time. So it was like God was like putting people in my life. I was falling in places. Every single time that I go and I make the move, he aligns me and he shows me where I need to be. I remember when I was living in Atlanta, and I saw some people filming some things, and I was in heels, and I was in heels and a fur and everything, right? And sometimes you don't even realize that God is he's like putting you in position for something else, or maybe somebody else, right? I went and I worked with this production company, and I was just working as a PA. And to be honest, like I was loving the process, but sometimes even like the people I was working for, sometimes they weren't as nice, right? But through that, I knew I had to stay focused, not worry about people, whatever. And I also met like this rapper he has a big name, and he's like big in Atlanta, whatever. He's big everywhere, but he's from Atlanta. I ran into him again in the mall, and then we exchanged information. I just so happened to have a situation. He helps out a lot of people, and he does it secretively. He just do his thing. And I remember I called him and was like, hey, I'm dealing with this situation with the first time I was dealing with this situation where I saw some things happen in front of me, and I knew that he could probably get it out to more people than I could. And it was a situation with some young kids, right? So anyway, he helped me through that situation. He walked me through it, talked me through it. He lined up the right people to help me through it, you know. And only reason I'm not saying his name, because I don't know if it's something that, I don't know if it's just something that he would want to be said or whatever. But he helped me through that process. And then again, I called him years later, and I would send messages like, hey, I hope everything is great with you, things like that, just to say hello sometimes. Um, because I believe in being genuine and not trying to just keep people in your pocket. Like, just being genuine, like, oh, I'm thinking about that person. Hey, let me just say hello. So some time passed, and then another situation happened with some family, and one of my young family members, she's actually not like my real cousin, but some things happened and she got caught up in some things, and I knew that if I called him, he would be able to align the right people, right? And he did that, and he helped us through the process. And with all that said, I don't even know if me meeting this man had anything to do with my career. It may have just been from him to help guide me through those situations, which honestly had nothing to do with me, but it was me being a vessel to help somebody else, right? So just all this saying, like, God has put me in places to meet people on a whole nother level than where I may be, And for so many reasons, it could be to like help somebody else, or maybe it is for my whatever my purpose will be in the future, right? Now, when you are on your space in your time or in your season of alignment, you have to it's you have to kind of look back. Like for me, when God make things happen for me, he always give me a vision, and I'll go back to what was, right? What has happened to get me here, and he literally gives me like these visions of this is why, and I'm doing my hands like dot 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 right now, but it's like this is why I put you here, and then all of these steps will start taking place. And I have to do this all the time and remind myself, girl, you are not in a place of being stuck. Like I go through, like people don't believe or don't know because you don't talk about it, but I go through warfare all the time. I go with warfare with myself, with my spirit, with the world, with being indecisive, with not knowing, with falling off of alignment or not knowing where I'm supposed to be or what I'm supposed to do. And I have to remind myself, okay, Chanel, the things you're going through right now, God is planting seeds, and he is it's things that you may have to go through to build a character in your life, or to build your character, or to make you remove some things or build some things or do some things or pivot some things, reminding myself that this is for me. Because if it wasn't, God would not keep aligning me and putting me in these spaces. And if it is not, he's going to take it from me. He's going to show me that it's not for me. Or maybe he put me here to put me somewhere else. And be okay with that. Abide. Abide means accept or act in accordance with a decision, rule, or recommendation. That is saying exactly what I just said. God will align you or show you what he needs from you or where he's placing you. And all you got to do is abide. Let me tell you something. Abiding can be a struggle. And I know it. I mean, a challenge, like a big girl challenge. Like you better this is when you put your big girl panties on. It's not even aligning. It starts with abiding. Because I've talked about inconsistency and, my struggles with that, and, being decisive and making decisions. You have to, in order for you to stay in alignment, you got to abide. You have to abide by the rules. You have to abide by your decisions. Once you've made a decision, you got to push through with that decision until you get to that. Even if you got to take other avenues, and you still got to stay focused on the dream, on the vision, on the word, on everything that you was told, whatever that is, you still have to stay focused on that. And that's where your abiding comes in. He gave you instructions. So what's up? What's up, Chanel? Like you got the instructions. Why are you still asking, what do you need to do? Why you keep forgetting the instructions? Go back to what you've written down. Read over the instructions. Read over the word. Read over the goals. Read over the steps. So that you could go and do what you have been placed to do. What is it? Stop thinking that it's just going to just fall right in your hands, because it's not. You may have to get a job just to support your dream. You may have to get a job to get you to the next job, to get you to the next job. Maybe going back to school is right for you. Maybe it's not. But you got to make a decision. And once you made that decision, you got to move on that until you have done all that you can do. Abide. Abide by the decision that you've made. Abide by the instructions that you've been given. Abide by the rules that have been laid. If you have laid rules for yourself, I'm going to go to sleep at this time because this is the only way that I can be productive in the morning in order for me to be able to be focused or write or get to the gym at a certain time. Like I know for me, y'all, it's hard. I'm not going to sit here and act like I am the one who got it all together. I am not, sis. I am absolutely not. All I know is that God gave your good girlfriend a word. All I know is that God is working through me to help work through you, to help work through me. That's all I have. That's what I know. And with what he's given me, I got to pour back, right? So yeah, abide by what he's giving you. And the only way that you can get to our next topic, which is become, is by you falling into alignment, abiding by where you've fallen into in order for you to become. Now, there's a whole lot of things that come with becoming. One of those things is actually allowing yourself to become who you were placed on this planet to be. Now, we all know that we are spirits, we are souls experiencing human nature, experiencing human flesh. We're experiencing this world as humans, right? Now, the definition of become is to begin to be. The definition of become is to begin to be. Let me tell y'all something about this here. You can get aligned, you can abide, but if you are scared to become, none of that matters. There are so many times that even looking at people in the industry who may have like one hit or have done something and they didn't go back to do it again. My perspective on that is that you got in a space to become. Now, this is a good one before I even get there. When there are football players or rappers or just people, maybe actors, whatever, that step into a place where to become, but they still go back to their own old habits. That's a word. That's a word all in its own. I might have to literally go deeper into that on another episode. But when you step into the position to become, but you can't quite hold that position because you're still stuck in who you used to be. Girl, that is a word, girl. You know that you've been set up. You've been put in this position to be this person. You saw the vision. You're walking in it. Now you got to bark and bite. You got to walk and talk. You feel what I'm saying? You got to walk and be in that position and hold that position. So you have to become all that you have aligned and have been abiding to become. Walking in your alignment will force you to become who you are supposed to be. But it's up to you to stay there. How many people have been in a position where they have gotten to their success and they fumbled the ball all because they didn't got locked up for drugs or carrying a gun, or they've done something domestic or something that they just should not have done because they could not force themselves to come out of where they were to become who they are. Make a decision. Like you can't straddle the fence. So I'm gonna be honest with y'all. This had been a struggle for me because I can say I have a lot of struggles. Stepping, so I'll say this: step into alignment, but struggle with abiding and being consistent. Allowing yourself to accept who you are, where you are, and working through that, or just being decisive, making a decision, like I said, of who I am going to be. So, a few things. For me, I told y'all where I'm from. You know, I'm from Baltimore. Um, you know, the neighborhood that I grew up in, it was a pretty rough neighborhood. Although we had like our neighbors were like family, we still grew up in a rough neighborhood. And even friends in school, I remember like my first year of high school, I got in so much trouble, got in so many like in so much drama, fights, all of this stuff because I wanted to hold on to this image. I think I talked about that before, right? I wanted to build this image, right? But that's not even who I was. I knew that I was somebody totally different, right? Now, fast forwarding into my life as an adult, I remember I was in my neighborhood and I was in my early 20s. And I had this vision of who I wanted to become, but I kept going back to my old neighborhood because that's where I was grounded. And most of my friends that I grew up with, they're men, they're guys, and so I would go back and just sit on the stoop and chill with them, sit on the porch, you know, might watch a dice game, whatever, right? And in the midst of that, sometimes I could feel God pulling on me, like, Chanel, this isn't where you need to be. This, you got to stop doing this, right? We were just like all hanging out, laughing and joking. And I don't remember what we were talking about, but I remember saying to them, I think that y'all forget that I'm a woman. Like I'm a woman. Like I am not, like I am not a dude, right? And my big brother, my big brother Smurf, um, he said, girl, he was like, what you mean? I was like, y'all really treat me like I'm one of the guys. Like I think y'all forget that I'm a woman. And he was like, you are one of the guys. He was like, I was like, okay, you know what? It's time for me to grow up. That was the moment that I realized it was time for me to grow up because I appreciate that my friends saw me as one of the guys. They've always like had my back or been there, especially him specifically. Like if I ever had any problems, I knew who I could call. And when he said that, it was like, no, Chanel, you don't realize that you're a woman. It wasn't about them. It was about me not realizing who I was. And this is what they do as men. They pull up in the neighborhood, congregate, might have a few drinks, roll dice, whatever, not even really have a few drinks, no. But, roll dice, talk, catch up, whatever. We still do that, but we do it by phone. That's when I realized, like, number one, it's time for you to separate Nelly from Chanel. It's time for you to grow up and allow God to be who he's supposed to be in your life. And that, I think that was like the last day that I actually like sat around on the block in the neighborhood with my guys. I would go and visit, and things like that, but I stopped going around there because it wasn't my place. I could feel that he was trying to elevate me, but I was so stuck in just trying to be the Nelly, trying to stay the same person, and that's not who he was calling me to be. And as time went on, I started to grow and grasp the concept of who I was becoming and who I was, but it was still taking me a lot of time. It really was. And even when it came down to friendships or families, for sure, I had people in my family, like I was always a little bit different. even now my cousins would tell me like, Chanel, you've always been different. We always knew that you could possibly be something different, right? And I would, like I was the one that was like health conscious. Or I was going out to become more cultured and traveling, going up to New York and doing these different things. And it's not that I thought that I was better than anybody, but I was trying to better myself. And in the meantime, I wanted to help better my family and the people around me. But for a lot of them, they felt like I was bougie. I was a person. I remember my aunt one time, she told me I was at the mall and I was on my computer. This was before people was ever really even at the mall sitting, or Wi-Fi was even like that for you to sit on and be on your computer. I would just go there just to write. And they met me there one day and she was like, "Why you act like a white girl?" And I was like, "A white girl? Why do you say that?" And she was like, "Black people don't do that, Chanel. We don't sit and get on the computer at the mall and stuff." And I took that like, damn. Like me being productive is considered being a white girl, not being a productive black woman, right? And I had some family members, who I remember I wanted to move out of town, and she was just like, "You're a horrible mother because you wanna you want to leave your daughter here so you can go and start a life." No, I was going to leave and to start a new life for me and my daughter, and I got to get it together. You know what I'm saying? And I would take those things and I would like run with it. So, and it was like, so when I came around, anything that I did, I would eat asparagus. I would eat like different things I would do because these were things that I liked. I like a chicken box and a cheesesteak, but I also like salmon and asparagus. You know what I'm saying? This was like years ago. I like Panera Bread. That's why I spent most of my time back then. And to them, it was like, "Oh, that's too expensive, or that's bougie." It's like, no, it's the same. Just like you'll go to McDonald's and you'll buy a Big Mac meal with I'm going to Panera Bread and buy me a panini. Like, what's the difference? It's just that it's more healthier, right? So they saw me as I was being bougie. So when I would go around some of my family, I would lighten up. Like, I am a fun loving person. I will say that. But I would be more like, "Oh, I gotta make people laugh," or I gotta remind people I'm still from the hood. Like, I'm still, and at the end of the day, I am. It don't matter. I still got some hood in me. It'll come out if it need to come out, but I also know how to turn it on and off, right? And with them, it's like I showed up. I had to show up as like I'm still down for the cause or whatever. Like, that's how it felt. Like, I could not talk about the book that I'm reading, or I could, because they couldn't relate. You know what I mean? And they didn't want to relate. So I would kind of like dumb myself down. And not saying that they were dumb. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like I had to dumb myself down just so I could be on the same level as them. And sometimes I feel like I'm being crucified for it because it's like, Chanel, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Why are you trying to want people to keep up with who you are? Like, "Oh, you're bougie because you're doing this," not because it's better for you. My apologies, everybody, but a lot of what I was saying got cut off, so I can't even remember because God was just moving through me. But I will say this. I know that I was talking about, the thing that me feeling like I was being crucified, all because I was doing things that I felt like was for me. And it was even in, friendships and things like that, where I would be around people, and I'm always trying to put on this face like I'm still the same girl from Papa Grover Riggs. I'm still the same person. And I'll get around some girlfriends, or I've had people say all types of things like, "Oh, it's that model chick," or of course a model chick would say that stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Or "Oh, she bougie, or she this," and it's like, no. I just decided that these are things that I want to do for myself, for me to be a better person. And me moving out, I moved out. Oh, you're not grown because I didn't say I was grown. I said I moved out because this is something I wanted to do for me. And I made a decision that this is what I want to do, whether it was right for other people or even right for myself, right? But me wanting to become something different has always been held against me for whatever reason. And instead of me realizing that, hey, Chanel, everybody is just not walking on the same path as you. We're not on the same page, and you can't always bring people with you. I had to stop being a people pleaser and understand that this is where I have been led. This is where I am. So accepting where you are and working through it, right? And then another thing for me is, the fear that you will succeed, but scared of the responsibility that comes with it. Okay, this is a topic that is really big for me, because we can accept, or we could say we want something, we want to become this person. Chanel, you want to be this, you want to be that, but then you forget about the responsibility, or you don't think so far into the responsibility of what, getting to what you've asked for. For instance, when I first got my new car, I remember I prayed for it, I was asking for it, and like 2 weeks later, I got a brand new car. Old car went up and everything, right? But in my mind, I wasn't even thinking about the responsibility in the beginning. And when I did think about it, it scared me. But I knew that it was time for me to move forward because I had had my car for a very long time. It was time for her to go. It was time for something new. And my mother kept saying, like, girl, it's time for you to step out in something new, because number one, you are moving to another level in your life, and God is blessing you every single day. Stop thinking and worrying about what you're going to do, how you're going to pay for it, because that's what I was thinking about. Like, no, I'm okay. I'm going to be able to pay for it. I even had people in my ear like, you ain't going to be able to do that. You ain't. It's a reason why these things are happening. My car didn't go up for a reason. I'm about to go and pay the same amount for another car that when I can get a luxury car. Why am I doing that? No. Go get what God has for you, and don't be scared to step in it or take the responsibility for it. So, like I've always prayed for, like, God, this is what I want to do with my life. I want to act, I want to do this, I want to do. In the beginning, it was all about, it was something I always wanted to do. Don't get me wrong. But I also thought about, like, walking the red carpets and the glitz and the glam. Of course I did. But over time, it was like realizing how tough it was becoming. I want to help people that are in this situation that I am in, trying to make it to their next level, but they're having such a hard time with doing so. I want to be able to build a platform for them. I want to be able to help people in my neighborhoods. I want to be able to help young people like me who knew they were different but didn't even know how to get out. I want to have no problem with being able to take my mother out of town or out of the country, or give her something new because she deserves it. She's bust her ass for it, right? And these are the things that I wanted, but there's a responsibility that comes with all of that. And you have to align your beliefs. You have to align what you want to become with that responsibility. Like, knowing these are the responsibilities I'm going to have to take on if I decide this is what I'm going to do with my life. You can't back away from that. You can't run from that, because they're coming. So yes, you align yourself. You abide by the rules and by, the decisions and the accord and the recommendations and all of those things. But when you are becoming that, just understand that there is something else that comes with becoming that. It's not just an image. It's a lifestyle. It's a spirit that you take on. You're working on your inner self, becoming who you want to be. You're working on your inner self through that process, for sure. For sure. I know for me, I am working through some things, some past things, some traumas. I'm working, like, all of this is a responsibility to become Chanel Sara'Nita, who she really is. And not just the image, not just a pretty face, not just somebody who's out here doing this and doing. No, it's so much that, and it took me a long time to realize that there's a responsibility. I'm not just doing this for myself. You have people that are just doing this for themselves. They're doing it because of what they want out of it. Some people aren't, you know, thinking about other people. But I know that there's a responsibility at hand that when I build this image, that's something, when I build this image or I walk into the person that God has for me to become, that I'm not only am I pulling along other people, if that's what he has for me to do, but somebody else's dream is on my back. Oh my God. That's something I just had to remember just now. Everything that I do. Sometimes I'm tired, y'all. I don't want to be responsible. When my dad died, that he looked at me like, it's you. You're next. My little brother told me that walking down the street one day. I said, you're going to get us out of here. We were struggling so bad. You're going to get us out of here. He was like, no, you're going to get us out of here. And I was just like, and I always kept that in me. And sometimes I get upset with myself because I realize that the responsibility that I'm taking on, I got to walk in that. I can't just be tired. I can't just down talk myself. I can't look at myself and just, and oh, Chanel, whatever. Like my little brother told me, you gonna get us out of here. I gotta do that. I gotta still press forward. And getting us out of here may not just look like, oh, we're gonna become rich. No, it means building something for my family, building something for us together that we can spread to get to our grandchildren, our great grandchildren. That we can help out the people around us, and not just in a financial space, but just leading them to what looks like the promised land for us, what success looks like for us, what growth looks like for us. All of that is not just a monetary thing. Some of that is just becoming a better person, learning how to be a better person, going after whatever it is that you want. It doesn't matter what it is. You know what I mean? It all comes with a responsibility, whether we want to face that or not. Fear of becoming who you are because you're scared of losing. Okay, fear of who you will lose if you become that person. That should not be a fear. Because if you lose, and this is a fear for a lot of people, because it was a fear for me. I'm not going to lie to you. I wanted to move to Atlanta years ago. I remember when Stomp the Yard came out. I was like, yo, I'm moving to Atlanta. I'm starting my life all over. My dad had just passed away. I had this townhouse. My little brother lived with me. My man lived with me. And I was just like, but this is not what I want. But I was still so scared to just go, right? And I kept thinking about who I would lose. Like, my man not trying to go. He wasn't trying to go. He was comfortable where he was. My little brother could go back, but my little brother wound up moving to Atlanta, so I would have been good. You know what I mean? But I was always so caught up. And even the last thing that I was talking about, like afraid to lose the people around you because you decided to become a better person. I would digress back into who I used to be or who they knew me as, just because I didn't want them to say I was bougie, or I didn't want them to say that I had grown up, or I was this, I was this, I was that. I was afraid of what people thought and afraid of them leaving me or being rejected, because I was so used to rejection and dealing with rejection outside of like dealing with it in that way, like dealing with like other people in my life or class members feeling rejected because I was different. So I would digress just so I could be like them. You see what I'm saying? So you can't be afraid of letting people go or people falling by the wayside, because I wasn't put here to stay right here. Girl, I'm not trying to stay right here. I got plans. I got real plans. And the problem is, the reason, and I'm going to be honest, why I feel like a lot of my plans did not always go to where I needed them to go is because I would digress. I would digress back into old ways. I would digress around and get around old people. I would digress. Fear of what's on the other side. Fear of becoming who I'm supposed to be because of what I might lose. Fear that it's going to be too much. Fear of the responsibility. Fear of having to be consistent. Fear of having to actually show up. Fear that I done bit off more than I can chew. Girl, you asked for the burger, eat it. You asked for the whole plate. So what you gonna do? Fear. Fear. The bottom line is fear. You cannot become who you are supposed to be if you are fearful of who you are supposed to be, or you are fearful of who you could possibly become. How am I looking at Uncle Steve, looking at Sarah Jakes, looking at Diddy, looking at Jay-Z, looking at all of these people that I admire, looking at Tyler Perry, looking at Les Brown? How am I looking at all of these people and where they are in their lives? How am I reading all of these books and still scared to become who I am supposed to be? No, it's not okay. I was scared to do this podcast, y'all. I was. I was too scared to be vulnerable. I was too scared to know, for people to know that I actually talk like this behind closed doors, because I'm laughing and funny and this, that, and the third. And girl, guess what? I'm doing so much of that. But behind closed doors, I'm praising God. I'm talking to God. I'm literally like praying over people. I'm doing all of these things. My girlfriend Ashton told me, she said, wow, girl, we was praying over a friend in LA last summer. She was here, I was here. Her girlfriend was going through all of these different things. And I just remember that, like, we was just praying, like, we went into the bathroom and we just started praying over her. And I felt this thing in me. My phoenix is strong, y'all. I got this phoenix inside of me. And this phoenix is a part of she is my spirit animal. She is my goddess, everything. And I feel when she's coming up out of the fire. She's doing it right now. My phoenix is strong. And I touched her. And I said, girl, when your phoenix comes up out of this fire, it was like God just like put that in me. And then we started praying over her and I felt it. And she said, and my girlfriend said, oh my gosh, Chanel, thank you for that. And I knew even in that moment that no, I was not just put on this planet to act, to write, to produce. My work is supposed to show up to help other people. My voice is to help other people. My voice has a meaning to it. And I've covered it and I've hit it, y'all. I'm not like, and as I'm speaking, I could feel the passion and the fire and the burn inside of me. He put me in these situations so that I'm able to speak. No, my life was not peaches and cream, and it's a reason why I wasn't. No matter what people think. It wasn't peaches and cream because I had to be able to speak into somebody else. My phoenix had to rise for somebody else's phoenix to rise. It's not about me. I'm sorry if I'm yelling in y'all ear, but I feel what I'm saying right now. It wasn't about me. It's not about me. He has me here to attack the enemy off of somebody else. And I have to stop shying away from it. Because that's not where he put me. And I know, again, this is going to be long. It's long as hell. It got to be at least an hour by now. But I need you to feel me. I need you to feel me. Because once you get to that point in your life where God has spoken something into you for you to be able to use, you cannot bear back from that. You're not hurting anybody but yourself and the people that are supposed to get something from you. It's not about me. It's about somebody who's supposed to receive it from me. We were not put on this planet just for us. We were put on this planet for the life of others to evolve. We are all supposed to be a vessel. We are all a part of a puzzle piece. What's the ending? I don't know. I just know that this is my puzzle piece is a part, is something for somebody else. For them to make a puzzle piece for somebody else. Steve Harvey talking to other people, Steve Harvey becoming a comedian, that wasn't just for him. He had to get to me. Everything that Sarah Jakes went through, having a baby at a young age, having this truth about this truth for her to speak over everybody else. That wasn't just for her. That was for me. That was for another young lady who had a baby at a young age. That was for somebody else to hear that. So I feel like I've come to my ending of this podcast. Y'all don't even know it, but I'm sitting in my car. I literally left out of the gym and was like, nah, Nah, sis, you can't keep waiting to put up a video. They're going to see your face. You're going to see my face on multiple streams of media. I know this. I know this because I feel it. I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen. All I know is I just, even when I don't feel like it, man, I just got to keep doing this. I got to keep doing this. I hope and I pray that I spoke into somebody today, that I spoke into your life, and I pray that you take these words and that you use them however you see fit. But I pray it is for the evolution of you. I pray that it is for somebody else, whether it's your child, your spouse, your mom, your dad, your friends, whoever it is. Pass it along because somebody else needs a word. And I'm thankful and I'm grateful for, I can't even remember the young lady, Shantia, I think her name is, but she has a YouTube page and I listen to her. And I'm just so thankful for all the people that have used their voice to build a platform to speak onto me and to other people. I can't say each of who they all are because it's probably a whole list of them, but I've spoken about some of them already. But I'm so grateful that they took their gifts and their talents to get to their purpose. I am. And I just ask and pray that God will continue to work through me for me to be able to do the same, because I'm showing up as more than just your actress and your writer and a cute face, nice body, all that other stuff. More than just the shell. There is so much more deep down inside of me that I just want to explore and let out and allow you all to experience as well. And I know that God has something for me. And if you're listening to this, I know he has something for you, girl, and you better go and get it. Or God, whoever this is. Whoever this is, because at this point, this is the Queen's Corner. I am the queen of this corner, okay? This is for you. This is for my women. But this here, right here, this is a message for all of us. And I'm asking that you spread it as far and as wide as you possibly can, because I don't know. I sat in this car on my way to get to my car, and I was like, God, I don't know what the word is that you have for me today. I don't know why, but I'm going to ask you that you pour the word and it just flowed like water. It just flowed like water, and I'm just thankful for that. And I've never even had a podcast this long, not yet. So I love y'all. I'm praying for you. I am looking forward to the possibilities of the future and everything that's coming with it. And I pray that you have an amazing, amazing, amazing week. And I am here. I am here. I promise you, I am here. And I'm going to keep it going. Whether you see me on screen or you don't, just know that I am here. I love you. Later. Thank you for tuning in to another fire episode of the Queen's Corner. Please like, subscribe, and share with another queen. Love you, girl.